And hello again from WJ Live, powered by the Western Journal. I'm Josh Manning, Deputy Managing Editor for Assignment here at the Western Journal. Joining me today, Michael Austin, Supervising Writer or Reporter or both for the Western Journal.
I'm whatever you want me to be, man. So
He's fluid. He's fluid,
I'm
but
fluid.
not gender fluid. And on the other side is Tara Snyder. She's an intern for the Western Journal and will soon be beginning full-time. Thank you guys for being here today. Thank you for being with us and kicking off your week with WJ Live. We have got, normally we bring you 3 pieces every day. We've actually got almost 4. We've got a couple of regular size pieces, a couple small ones, and hopefully you enjoy the change up today. We are going to be talking about Antifa. Antifa has done it again. This time they've gone after a church, and it's really convoluted. After they went after the church, another supposed church came in and attacked the church Antifa went after. And there's some interesting things about that church we want to tell you about. Very confusing, very bad, essentially, for America,
Yeah.
just in general. We also want to talk with you about a candidate running for the U.S. House of Representatives who has decided there's a group of people we should be able to shoot. He said anyone in this group we should be able to shoot. We're going to do a quickie on that. And then also we want to take you to France and tell you what's happening over there as far as COVID restrictions go, what's happening with their lockdowns. Finally, Michael's going to wrap us up with information about some citizens who are fighting back. Almost an entire city council is being recalled. And that is an exciting thing to see. When you see these school board meetings go bad, when you see we used to see the listening tours that congressmen would go on, those going bad. It is good to see people fighting back. That is an important thing. But first off, let's talk Antifa and the Tale of Two Churches. Tara, take it away.
Oh, yeah. So if you guys were at all on Twitter this weekend, this was probably the #1 story. Andy Ngo went out and was recording Antifa as usual, and it was absolutely insane, as usual. So some evangelicals were gathered outside discussing the Lord, having a nice service, and Antifa decided it was the best opportunity to show up. And so they went and said, and met these people, and of course were violent, dressed in black like the ninjas they think they are.
Yeah.
And and the worshipers met them and they said, quote, "What are you mad about? And we speak peace to you in Jesus' name." And one Antifa member actually went up on stage and grabbed the microphone and said, "All cops are bastards in the name of Jesus, amen." Then they went on to pepper spray individuals, including toddlers and young children.
During a church service.
Yeah, during a church service. And they said, "Where is your God now?" So, wow, that's pretty blatant. I mean, we've known that they hate Christianity for quite some time. And they also hurled chunks of concrete. So we do have a montage clip of all of this going on.
Go hit that car! Go hit that car!
Worship event, and Antifa just rolled in like an angry mob, started throwing flash bombs at everybody, macing everybody, rotten eggs at everybody, black paint. They threw a flash bomb into a group of kids that were out there, from like 4 months old to like 10. They were ruthless.
So yeah, those are a few of the main clips there. And I'm not sure, I mean, we all saw the sound equipment that was being dumped over. They actually threw all of that sound equipment in the river.
wow, yeah, that typical Antifa just running in, not asking questions, destroying anything that isn't a far left message.
Anything that isn't a pride flag.
Everything that doesn't have a pride flag or BLM
If it doesn't have a
painted
rainbow
on
on it, it's toast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they even were making threats before the event started saying, quote, "You won't like it here, Pastor," on Twitter, which is just amazing. And the police actually didn't get involved and kind of just let this happen, which is,
of course.
No.
which is like,
In Portland, the
Yeah.
police didn't get involved?
well, I guess when you force half the police force to resign, I guess everyone else is kind of just like, well, good luck. You decided to live here now. But we do have another video, and this is later in the day where they're launching fireworks at an intersection. So that's pretty shocking. That seems like something you'd see in like a third world country where people are running around lawlessly launching things into the air. Don't you think that's pretty ridiculous?
Well, you sort of wonder what the goal of doing that at night is. The thing with the church and the sound equipment and all of that is what's amazing to me. Because do we have any idea what it was about this group that why it was that Antifa targeted these people?
I believe that there were some politicians who went along with the group, but I think that because those politicians were going to this evangelical event, I think that that's kind of what drew their attention.
So that was their reasoning for when they could disrupt it.
That was their motive, but I think it would be wrong to discredit that this was an attack on Christ because these people were literally saying, where's God now? Like, is Jesus going to save you? Like those type of things. So anyways, now we have this new pastor that, of course, is acting as the savior for the left because they don't have one. And it's Reverend Chuck Curry. And he claimed that this was not a religious exercise and it was not a worship group. And I think I have a tweet talking about this, one of his tweets. So this is a Christian minister from Portland here. This was no family Christian prayer event. It was a far-right political rally organized by a failed MAGA congressional candidate from California. Just assume everything Andy Ngo tweets is made up. So I saw that tweet and a little red flag went off in my brain. And I was like, usually when the left is retweeting a pastor, something's probably a little shaky or a little off there. And so I actually looked into this pastor in his church, and I have another clip full of tweets. And here we see what his church actually believes in. So we see the tweet on your left there that says that they're going for reparations now because, of course, I think that has some anti-biblical practices.
No. Jesus was always calling for reparations.
Oh, yeah, Jesus was a socialist. I forgot. I just missed that section. Then you see the United Church of Christ, which is where this guy is a so-called preacher. And, of course, they have the LGBT flag behind it. And Pride didn't end on July 1st. Come and show your community love, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. I think I remember this one. This one rings a bell. Pride's a sin, right? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I thought that one was obvious, but I must be mistaken.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if he goes by the Reverend Dr. Chuck, whatever it is, Reverend Doctor. The more prefixes and initials after a name, the less you should trust the person. Yeah, this is. It's a bastardization of Christianity and the faith. I mean, obviously what he's saying is they're driving, for one thing, essentially a homosexual agenda, which is completely unbiblical, wildly unbiblical. You look like you were wanting to get in.
No, I agreed with all of that. And the point that really sticks out to me is even if it were a far-right event, a far-right worship service, that doesn't justify what Antifa did. They should all be arrested. Like that's they have a political aim. They're seeking to use violence to achieve that aim. They're terrorists. And they're terrorizing the whole city. And all of these lefties, like this reverend, they keep trying to provide cover for Antifa because they believe in the cause. But, these people are sick and demented and as all hell, and they need to be locked up. But unfortunately, the Portland police force isn't going to do anything because they have their hands tied because the city of Portland is as far left as it could possibly get.
Yeah. And I know I brought this up to Josh earlier today, and I saw something about them rewriting the Bible or doing a new translation, and they added like the New Standard Edition revised copy of Social Justice Warrior, whatever. And so I think, the Marxist interpretation. And I just that's another key thing because we know that the Bible isn't meant to be changed. There's nothing to be added or revised. And I'm pretty sure that anyone who does that is in danger of losing his life or being, damned to hell. So I just don't see how they're missing all of these key issues.
Well, it's easy to miss things when you're trying to. They don't want to be involved with biblical Christianity. They find that intolerant and bigoted, and most of all, they find it inconvenient for themselves. They would rather promote sin and a sinful life.
Well, that's the whole point of progressive Christianity, is just to kind of use the authority of Christianity and then to append sort of a cultural interpretation of that. So
social
Yeah.
causes.
the authority doesn't lie within the biblical text for these people. The authority lies in our cultural, the lens in which we interpret Scripture. And so what does Scripture mean? Well, anything that we say it means according to
Yeah.
what the norms are today. So, LGBT, that's really a big movement today. Therefore, everything in the Bible that's anti-LGBT, it has to be read as though that's not literal.
Yeah.
So,
And everything on the left is your truth. So if your basis
Yeah.
for reality is your truth, I guess that's where you end up.
We've said many times on the show before, to the left, a lie is the truth as long as it advances leftism. And that's the deal with this. All of what these people are saying is just utter lies, but they feel like they advance a leftist ideology. And so they become truth to them. All right, so thank you, Tara. Next up, got a couple of small pieces here for you. Normally we do a full segment here. For the next 5 minutes, we're going to do one, and then the next 5 minutes, we'll do another one. First off, we've got to talk about Steve Cox. Steve Cox is running for Congress in California. He's running for the U.S. House of Representatives. And Steve went on Twitter, and I don't know if it was against his better judgment or if this is his better judgment, but he went on Twitter and wrote the following. And we can put it up on screen. Maybe not. There it is. Whenever anyone says we all die from something, or a variation thereof, to justify not taking precautions to help protect others in this pandemic, we should be allowed to shoot them. Why are you crying? We all die from something. For you, it's the bullet in your gut. So he was responding to Matt Walsh, and you can see Walsh's tweet underneath. Walsh had essentially said, look, COVID's here to stay. We've got to make our peace with it.
Yeah.
Which I've been thinking that for a very long time. There are lots of things that are here to stay. The flu is here to stay. Cancer, best we can tell for now, unfortunately, is here to stay. Diabetes is here to stay. We're working on these things, but we haven't gotten a fix for them yet. And the same is going to be true with COVID, I fear. So Walsh was just trying to add a practical sentiment to what is an incredibly emotionally fraught topic. And Steve Cox decided to get in there and say, look, if you're not taking this seriously enough, if you're playing this off, then we should really be allowed to shoot you.
Yeah.
Now, this is interesting. Michael, you and I were talking about this before the show. He's running in California. This then poses the question, who would be doing the shooting since people in California don't have guns? The best I can figure is that's the people of the state of California or the federal government. I'm not sure which. What's your gut response to this?
Look, this guy is an independent running in California, and so my gut response is, this COVID craze, this frenzy is not the left has helped this thing infect everything. And so there's a lot of people that are falling victim to this now, even though COVID ranks below cancer, ranks below Alzheimer's, ranks below accidents in terms of what's killing people today. So
I was looking over the weekend. I was looking at Australia's numbers. They're using the military to enforce a lockdown there. Up till so far, I don't think they've broken 1,000 deaths total. Not 1,000 deaths total. They have got an unbelievably low rate. They're using the military to do it. They've bought into this fear that is just incredible. So, Tara, when you see a guy who wants the power of the United States Congress say, look, I disagree with these people. We really ought to be able to shoot them. How about a bullet in the gut? What do you think?
Well, first I'd say, where's your critical thinking skills? Because I don't know, I'm not a scientist.
Well, he is running for Congress, so they're not required.
Yeah, I'm not a scientist, but I think on a normal level, if I had to choose between getting a bullet in the gut or my chances of surviving COVID-19, I think that your chances of surviving COVID-19 are a lot higher. And so I think, again, we're just seeing a false equivalency here because it doesn't take a rocket science to look at that and go, oh, you know what? That doesn't make sense. And I think that this candidate should go back to first grade and probably check your work, reread it over before he goes and publishes it on Twitter, because I'm sorry, he probably just ended his campaign as an independent.
Yeah, I looked over his page, and he's got all kinds of different views. It's kind of bizarre in places. He does want to lower taxes on the middle class and lower class, wants to raise taxes on the wealthy. He seems to be pro-gun, which I guess makes sense since he wants to shoot a whole bunch of people. Yeah. California, you should expect sort of soup and nuts out there, but this guy, this is a new level. And remember, when people go to Congress, they're seizing that we're giving them power. We're allowing them to have power. It's an unbelievably dangerous thing. So let's spin around the world from Steve Cox's Californian dystopia, to France's present COVID dystopia. We put a story together on this earlier today. Tara and I were talking about it, and I said, Tara, the way we need to start the title for this, the way we need to begin the title for this story is "It's Starting, : and it does appear to be starting. We have video captured by a Reuters stringer in, I think he's in Paris. He's certainly in France. Anthony Payon, or Payone, not sure how you pronounce it. Sorry, Tony. But he got video of police officers beginning to interfere with diners, beginning to accost people and demand their COVID papers. We've got the video. Let's roll it now. Papers, please. You know, the last time that you heard "papers, please" in Paris, it was not under favorable circumstances.
Yeah.
And the Parisians, the French in general, they are not having this. They have been revolting and rebelling for days and days over this. The idea of "papers, please," that phrase has always been used to describe totalitarian or authoritarian governments. That's what was used to describe experiences in the Soviet Union. That is not what's supposed to happen in Western democracies. But that is what has happened with COVID. Tara, I want to ask you, is COVID a dream come true for leftists trying to seize power?
Oh, it's an absolute dream come true. This is the perfect opportunity for them to grandstand and do what they want, because as we know, the leftist platform for a really long time has been, we're the party of the people, we support everyone, kumbaya. And then Republicans always got kind of the short end of the stick because they were saying, well, let's cut back on our spending. I don't think we can do that. That's probably not rational.
Yeah, the responsible party.
And now they get to claim the higher ground for responsibility of people's health and caring for people. And so when you have this top-down control of being like, oh, we care about grandma and your family, that's perfect for them because it requires no critical thinking whatsoever.
Yeah. Michael, do they come out of this, or is this here to stay?
Oh, this is here to stay. Like there's in France. I mean, the way in France, maybe not, because the way they're protesting is extraordinary.
Yeah, they're ticked off.
They're really
PO'd.
And you know, the government there was pressured into kind of pulling back their new law a little bit. The fines were reduced a little bit. There were some other small changes made. You know, it's still a horrible mess, but no, once the government gets a certain amount of power, it wants to keep that power. And it's amazing to look at where we are today and imagine a few months ago, or probably a year ago, when they all were like, oh, they're never going to mandate vaccine passports. You guys are crazy. You guys are conspiracy theorists. We're never going to do that. And those same people now are saying, we all need to do that. We need to mandate vaccine passports.
Our predictions in the past about what the left was trying to do, at first, they were 50 years early.
Yeah.
Then they got to where they were about 25 years early, then 10 years, 5 years. Folks, we're about 6 months now. You can predict the worst thing possible that the left will do. And in about 6 months, they seem to roll it out. It is unbelievably scary. Tara and I were looking at Peon's tweets there. He was reporting the first fine for a violation of being out without your COVID papers in France. The first fine, I think, is under 100 euros. The second fine is up to 9,000 euros.
Yeah.
So a pretty steep climb there. But folks, if you think this is not coming to the U.S., you're crazy. It's already happening in New York. We've got a story we're working on right now about people rebelling in Great Britain. There's a mob that tried to take over a government broadcasting building who was ticked off about COVID lockdowns and restrictions. The spirit of freedom is still out there kicking. I hope we recapture that without having to resort to violence.
And
It's
like
a terrifying thing.
we don't even have to point to New York's, the what they're doing in that state. The eviction moratorium is a federal law. It's draconian. It gives the CDC, a public health organization, like complete power and control over the housing industry. That's crazy.
Yeah. We've never ever had that in the history of the United States. So let's swing back to the U.S. from France, and let's actually get really local. We are back in California, but we've got some Californians who are rebelling now.
Yes, Huntington Beach. So there's a group of kind of conservative citizens of Huntington Beach that are extremely pissed off. And they recently served...
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all? They recently served 6 Huntington Beach city council members with basically notices of recall campaigns with dozens of signatures. And so there will be recall efforts, petitions going into effect. And from there could be recall votes. And, a lot of those city council members, which all the ones petitioned were liberals, the one conservative on the city council did not get a notice of.
So 6 out of the 7. So there's 7 on.
Yes.
There may be a couple.
I think there was a couple more. There's one that did not get a notice of recall because she hasn't been on the council long enough. And then there's one, I believe he's a man that's on the council that didn't get one because he's conservative.
Okay.
So he's not pushing for the policies that the other council members are.
So about 75% of the count So what sparked it? Do we know exactly what sparked it, or was it a litany of things?
There's a number of things, but the main reason is these zoning laws that the state of California is forcing all these cities to implement. And Huntington Beach, there was a lawsuit filed to prevent the state from forcing them to do that, but all of those council members agreed, they went against the lawsuit. They agreed the state should do that. And basically what these zoning laws are going to do is it's going to mandate that the city build all these high-rise apartment buildings all over Huntington Beach in this area with, small family beachfront homes. It's going to totally shift how what life is like in that city, and those citizens are pretty angry about it.
That is remarkable, since you look at places like San Francisco where they haven't built any new residents in decades. They've had a moratorium on building, which is why things are so unbelievably expensive there. Now they are outsourcing this to. They don't want more building in the big communities, so they're now forcing smaller communities.
What they don't realize is they keep just ordering these zoning laws and doing this and that, when really if they just open things up to the free market, the homelessness problem is going to get solved. If they do that and institutionalize people that can't take care of themselves. If they do those two things.
And enforce the law. You can't walk into a Walgreens, clean out the shelves, walk out, and just expect to get away scot-free.
But, it's not just the zoning laws. There are lots of policies that these people are really pissed, that are being implemented in their city. And we have someone who spoke out to the city council members. This is what she kind of had to say about that. And we're going to play that clip.
For 20 years, I've been letting the community know, council members know, we're turning into LA. And that is a fact that nobody wants to hear. The homeless issue is not getting any better. But you see the council members back in my old city of Maywood patting each other on the back like they did a great job. But the homelessness is just as bad. The schools are just as terrible. They're not safe. We don't even have a police department over there. They convinced the community we didn't need the police department. Who did the thriving? The gangbangers, the criminals. We lost our kids to drugs and gangbangers, and now they're in jail. I have friends that are in jail right now because City council didn't do anything. We weren't loud enough.
So it's all of these liberal policies are just continuing to cause these cities to deteriorate into chaos. You know, there's no path to success for the underprivileged because the schools are horrible. You know,
there's no way out.
There's lots of opportunities to get into drugs and get into gangs, and so that just it kind of puts a ceiling on what people can succeed and how much people can succeed in those areas. And when it came to the recall of Gavin Newsom, it seemed like, oh, okay, people are waking up now.
Yeah.
And then after a few months, it was like, well, maybe they were pissed at Newsom, but people in California, they're going to revert to the norm. They're going to continue to vote for the same things over and over again. But you know, this kind of shows that the recall with Newsom, that sentiment that was driving that is not going to go away anytime soon. You know, people are calling out council members here. People are pissed. People are leaving California in droves for places like Texas. So
Arizona.
Yeah, in Arizona,
Where we are.
which, you know,
stay, don't come here.
Unless it's me.
and please, you know, be smart enough to not bring the policies with you that forced you to leave in the first place.
Exactly.
But this story for me, what it gives me is a lot of hope. A lot of hope for California, a lot of hope for the U.S. in general, in that, you know, citizens are not going to stand by once they see that these policies are failing year after year, decade after decade. They're not going to stand by and continue to let it, you know, happen. So what do you guys think that California, there is a chance that it could return, it could be red once again someday, like, I don't know, 10 years down the road?
You know, I think it'll be Minnesota during, I think, when Reagan was elected, where everyone else like went red and then Minnesota was blue.
Yeah.
I think that same thing is going to happen in California for quite a bit until they drive out their entire population and then people
which is happening.
Yeah, until like every single
doing a
person's
darn
gone.
good job.
Yeah, until every single person's gone, and then America decides, you know what would be a great idea? Going to that deserted state that used to exist 500 years ago. We can move back now. Like maybe then those pioneers will be red, but
So essentially what I've always said, if you could just flush the hippies out of California, you'd have actually a decent little place to live.
yeah, Silicon Valley dominates everything.
Yeah, and of course they have their own gates, they have their own security forces, they have their own palatial mansion. None of the problems that most of you folks who are watching, and I know the three of us have, none of those things apply to the folks in Silicon Valley, the big tech people. Yet, because of unbelievably huge numbers of leftists in those organizations, they're able to direct incredible amounts of funds to Democrats, to leftists, to advance their policies over the wishes and over the what would be good for the voters in general. It is alarming. So one thing I was thinking about as Michael was talking, they're really dominated by the left now, Tara, and you've got homelessness like crazy, gangbangers taking over, no cops. Can the left really say with any credibility that they are the group that supports compassion and helping the little guy, when it's the little guy here who's really getting screwed every which way?
I just don't. I don't see that on any other level. I mean, the narrative has been, as I've said this entire podcast, has been that they're the party of charity and outreach. And so I think that that's so ingrained into society where it's not going to matter anymore. And just on a second note off of that, for a party that's so consumed with privilege and how much privilege you have to have quite a bit of privilege to think, oh, I'm going to defund the police for the people below me. You know, when you can afford your own security detail, it's not a concern for you.
Yeah, and I think you could say the left is the party of compassion in that they exemplify kind of the devouring mother. You know, they care so much, they spend so much time hugging their kids so tightly that they end up strangling them to death. Like they don't realize that sometimes if you help too much, that can make things much worse, especially if you're not using your head, you're not using facts to help influence, you know. You can't just look at what a policy means to do. You got to look at what the actual effects are, and they never do that. And so they care, but their caring is killing people.
So I tend to think of that as the liberal take on things less than the leftist take on things. That sounds more like the liberal take on things. And I'm willing to have that argument with people like, how much of a safety net should we have? But the left itself is, it's not quite the consuming mother. It is it's more like a black hole.
Yeah.
that just sucks in anything and everything it can.
And I think, too, the difference off of that, with the leftist liberal debate is it used to be a thing where, I believe in equality. And now you're a bigot if you believe in equality. You have to believe in equity. And so that's what all of their policies are doing. So you know what? Maybe they are logically consistent in the fact that they're making everyone as miserable, like equally miserable.
I had a professor in college who was unbelievably sharp, and he once made the comment, the left would rather than some people make $100,000 a year and some people make $50,000 a year, the left would rather everyone make $10,000 a year. And that is true, and it is terrifying. They do stand for equity, they do stand for equality, but it is equality of misery. And that's, I think people in California, when you saw that woman speaking, you could hear the passion in her voice. This was someone who was staring that misery in the face. And was terrified.
One of my favorite Jordan Peterson quotes of all time is when he's talking about some communist regime, probably Venezuela or something like that. And he says, everyone was equal because they had the same amount of rats to gnaw on. So
there's your equity for you, folks. And seriously, that's where this goes. We've seen it before. There's never been a version of this. There's never been a version of hardcore socialism, of communal living that has actually worked. Not at scale, anyway. I mean, you can get a bunch of hippies gathered around a pond for a few months.
Yeah, maybe
but
if you're
at
in a
scale,
cult.
nothing. At scale, nothing.
Yeah,
and then there's certainly not equality in
and if
the
you move into Huntington Beach, if you force these people to destroy these, family-friendly neighborhoods by building up all these high-rise apartment buildings, it is not going to improve the lives of homeless people one bit.
No, not at all.
That's what they don't get. They care enough to build them, but they don't care enough to look into if this will actually help in the long term, if their lives will get any better. They don't care about any of that.
No.
So
that's it for us today, folks. On that happy note, let's end on a true happy note. There is hope. There is hope. We've seen multiple ways today on this show where people are standing up and fighting back. Take encouragement from that. Be encouraged. Take some hope from it. And just know we are going to be there fighting with you every step of the way. Thank you for fighting with us. We appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for spending time over at westernjournal.com. We're so grateful to you. If you feel led to support us, and support the work we do directly, you can go to westernjournal.com/join, westernjournal.com/join. You can sign up there to partner with us and help fund the vital journalism that we do. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to click the subscribe button. Once you click it, a bell icon will pop up. Click that bell, and that's going to make sure that you get notified every time the show comes on. That's going to be it for us today. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific. For Michael Furtara, for everybody in the booth, and everybody at the Western Journal, I'm Josh Manning. Thanks. We're going to see you Wednesday. Hey, guys. Huge story. We need a fresh card. Let's red label it. Roll as fast as we can.
All right, on it. Sounds good. All right, guys, we got a red label breaking story. Can we get a picture for that? And can we try to get that out in the next 20 minutes? I want eyes on it as soon as possible.
On it, Joe. 2 more minutes and we'll be live.
Sam, we're going to need a slot for that story, so figure out what you want to bump. Ashley, we're going to want to translate it into Spanish yesterday.
Sí, señor. We can slide it in at 2:30. It should be going out here in about 10 minutes.